The electrical grid, we try to build it so that everything doesn't go out at one time just because there's one outage. We have a lot of devices that are designed and put in places where we might sacrifice a tap that only feeds 2 houses to keep on a main line that might have hundreds or thousands of houses on it. So you may see that tap go out and wonder why everybody else is on, and that's because your fuse or breaker opened up so that we didn't take out the thousands that could have went out.
Yeah.
So I guess my best answer for that is it's just kind of the way the electrical grid is designed to protect losing multiple meters and keep as many on as we can.
Welcome to the Power Hour, the official podcast of Henry County REMC. Our cooperative proudly brings reliable, safe electricity to Henry and parts of Fayette, Rush, Hancock, Delaware, Madison, Randolph, and Wayne counties. We're more than just an electric co-op. We're a community-driven force, powered by the people we serve. People like you. Welcome back to another episode of the Power Hour. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us today. I'm very pleased to have a wonderful guest in our Power Hour studio today. It is one of our hardworking linemen, Tyler Powell, and Tyler's here to talk to us today about the outage restoration process and give all you listeners an idea of what actually happens behind the scenes and what's involved. Tyler, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come in and talk with us on the podcast.
I'm glad to be here and appreciate you inviting me to come.
Well, we're very happy to have you. I know you guys are always super busy, so we'll try to make this quick, but very informative for the listeners. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
All right, so let's talk about restoring power when there is an outage. To kick it off, when members report an outage, what actually happens behind the scenes first when that report of an outage comes in?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the time of the day. If it's during normal work hours, that call is going to go through the front office. So the girls in the front are going to take that call, and then they're going to get that information to operations. Most of the time during regular work hours, that's going to go to the service crew. They're going to be out in a bucket truck all day doing maintenance work, and so they're going to be able to respond to an outage the fastest. So from there, those guys will start that whole process of driving to the location, finding the predicted device, and start working that outage from that point. Outside of normal work hours, it would go to our after-hours dispatch, and they will call the two guys on call, and those guys will head out from there, from that predicted device that they're going to give them, and that's how that outage information gets to the guys to start heading that way.
So how do you determine where the outage is coming from or where the issue is? Because I know that a lot of different things can cause an outage.
Sure. So I mentioned before the predicted device that those guys are going to start with. Our metering system that we have today, it helps kind of pinpoint down at least a place to start. And we have, like I said, the predicted device is going to be a breaker or a fuse somewhere that we can tell that this meter to this point is off and the meter before this device is still on. So now we kind of can get it down to that point of, well, from this point on is out. So that's where we're going to generally go start at that device, whether it's a fuse or a breaker. We're going to start from there and start running that line out. If it's multiple meters that are out, if it's a single meter out, then we would just go straight to that location of that house, or that might be a barn or a farm or whatever it may be. But we'll just go to that individual transformer at that point.
Okay, that makes sense. Can you walk us through the outage restoration process from when you're out there, you've pinpointed it, and it gets back on? Tell us more about what happens.
Sure. That's kind of a big question I'll answer all at one time because there's so many different kinds of outages. It could be just a squirrel or a bird that took a fuse out, which obviously is a matter of just we would still drive that line out from that predictive device. We would drive it out or walk it if it's right away and make sure that all the wires in the air and there's nothing else. It's tempting to see a squirrel at the device and turn it back on, but we're still going to put eyeballs on the entire line that's out just to make sure that there is nothing else, or to make sure that that line's not down. That squirrel or bird could have been what caused an outage a week before, and it's still laying there at the base of the pole or whatever. So we're still going to drive out that line and look at it all. And then it's just a matter of refusing it or just turning it back on. But if it's a tree that fell and took a line down, or a car accident that's broke a pole, then it gets more difficult as far as time wise, mostly. And really, the longest it takes is making it safe, especially if there's a line on the ground. We first of all, that predictive device, we're going to go back to that or a closest place we can open it up. And when I say open it up, I mean we call it a visual opening, where we can visually see a break in the line, whether that's taking a lead off the line or cutting a jumper open someplace, where we physically have a visual opening where we can see that there is a break in the line, where there's no possible way that anything's going to feed that line while we're working on it. And then we'll go to the point where the line is down or the pole's broke or whatever it may be, and put on what's called a set of grounds. And basically what that is doing is we're taking a cable, if you will, from the neutral connection to a phase connection. And what that's doing is for public safety if that line's on the ground, and also for our safety working on it on the ground. If there was any kind of backfeed, whether it's somebody has a generator that's hooked up incorrectly, which could backfeed onto the system, or any possible way for any kind of electricity to possibly flow, those grounds are going to take that and take it straight to that neutral connection that we just made, which is connected to hundreds of grounds throughout our system. So it's going to take that straight to ground. Generator, for instance, if it was to come on while we were working, that ground would protect us from that backfeed from the ground, or from that from the generator. If it did come on, those grounds would take that power source and take it straight to ground, probably short out that generator, but that's what it's there for to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then once we've got to that, we've established our visual opening, we've got grounds on, then we can start working on whatever it is that took the line down to begin with, whether it was a tree that's still hanging on the line or a broken pole or whatever it may be. Then we would start the whole process of fixing the line and getting it back up in the air.
Absolutely. There's a lot involved. And I know when we inform our members about outages, we always remind them, not only are you guys working to restore power quickly, but more importantly, safely.
Right.
So I know that there's a lot that needs to be done to ensure that safety before the actual restoring the power can even happen. How many of you does it take are out there working when it is a situation where it's not just the power's out at one house, there's one, small issue. If there's a pole down or something more, larger, to deal with has happened. How many of you are out there working on that?
So generally, we're going to start about every outage with 2 guys, whether it's during work hours or after work hours. During the day, there's 2 guys on the service track who are going to respond to that outage generally first. And then after hours, there's 2 guys on call. So 90% of the time, 2 guys will show up at about any outage. Sometimes in 2 different trucks, sometimes in the same truck, but generally 2 guys will start an outage. And 2 guys can efficiently and safely at least get an outage to a safe point, whether that's just getting that visual opening, getting grounds on, getting the scene safe. 2 guys can do that. Depending on what it is that caused the outage, it may take 4 or 5 guys to end up coming and helping, whether we may need a digger truck to pick a pole up, grab a hold of a pole that's broke, set a new pole. We've used digger trucks many times to even lift trees off of lines that are just too heavy. Sometimes we need multiple bucket trucks to get a line fixed and put back in the air. So it depends on obviously the situation again, but 2 guys will always show up, and we may end up with 5 or 6 guys there by the time we're done, and multiple trucks.
Okay. So there are certain questions that come up from members that you might hear on a regular basis. One of which would be, why does my neighbor have power
Mhm.
and it takes so long for mine to come back on? It's hard for folks to understand that. So why does it sometimes seem like other neighborhoods close to you or neighbors close to you get the power back on before you do?
Sure, yeah, that's a good question, and we get it a lot. Um, and it's kind of another one of those things that I could give you multiple different reasons why that is the way it is. Sometimes, we have a lot of additions that we feed, subdivisions, where we feed through the backyard. We have right of ways all over. So if 2 properties or 2 houses, the backs facing each other, we're running right down through the middle of their backyard. And then the next street over, it's the same situation, but that's Duke over there on that side of the road, and we're on the other side of the road. So obviously we're going to have 2 different feed points. So whether it's us or them, Duke might be out and we're still on, or we may be out and Duke's on, just because we're totally separate feeders. We've got 2 completely separate outages and 2 different protective devices that have gone out at different times. Sometimes you're just before or after a breaker that's not out or a fuse that's not out, and the neighbor is. The electrical grid, we try to build it so that everything doesn't go out at one time just because there's one outage. We have a lot of devices that are designed and put in places where we might sacrifice a tap that only feeds 2 houses to keep on a main line that might have hundreds or thousands of houses on it. So you may see that tap go out and wonder why everybody else is on, and that's because your fuse or breaker opened up so that we didn't take out the thousands that could have went out.
Yeah.
So, I guess my best answer for that is it's just kind of the way the electrical grid is designed to protect losing multiple meters and keep as many on as we can, just because of one situation, not taking them all out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. When a storm comes through and there's a situation where there are multiple outages, just massive, situation has
Mhm.
happened. What does that look like when you're talking about the whole team needing to go out, and how do you find the the issue, and how do you determine, who gets turned back on first and what you attack first when you have something that widespread?
So, on a widespread outage situation, first of all, that turns into a everybody meet at the shop, or everybody meet in a break room before anybody leaves, and let's just get a game plan as to who's going together in certain trucks and where's everybody going. Especially if we have other crews that come in to help us with mutual aid, we want to make sure everybody knows where everybody's working at. And then from there, we start from the beginning of a line, and that may be starting at the substation. We may start at the sub and just start working our way out, because it may be out all the way back to the sub. And at that point, we start driving it out. We start looking at putting eyeballs on everything, a lot of walking right away at that point. And then a lot of times we have to isolate and sectionalize a lot of the taps that come off the main line. We have to isolate those taps so that we can get the main line back on first, and then we can start going back and getting all those taps brought back on one at a time. Sometimes because there's an outage, that's a tree that's on another tap, and sometimes it's just because of load. Sometimes we can't pick it all up at one time. The breaker can't handle that inrush of everybody coming on at once. We have to sectionalize and take a lot of that load, or we're picking it up a little bit at a time. But if it's a mass storm, a lot of outages in random places, we just got to start at the beginning and get the main line on first, and then go through there and pick up all the taps one at a time. For one, because it just takes a long time to look at it all. So we want to get as many people on as we can, a little as we go. And then for two, if we try to turn it all on at once, maybe a tree fell on a tap after the main line was out. So that breaker that protects that tap wasn't energized to open up. So if we turn it on when that tree's still on the line, then it's just going to operate that breaker on that tap and maybe take the whole thing out again. So we have to isolate, sectionalize, get on what we can see, and then pick up the taps as we go. So it's a process, and sometimes it takes longer than we wish it did. So just
Absolutely.
the way you have to do it.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest safety risks that line workers face during this restoration work?
Probably backfeed is our biggest threat because it's not something that we can we can control it as far as putting our grounds on and making sure that we get visual openings and place our grounds and wear our rubber gloves still when the wire's on the ground. But whether or not somebody goes up there and hooks up a generator incorrectly, we can't control that. We don't know that they're doing it. And um, if a generator is hooked up incorrectly, where it is backfeeding voltage onto the line, going through their meter base and then to their transformer. A transformer is just a can that's hanging on your pole, or it could be on the ground as a pad mount, the green box that's out there in your yard. That transformer is just a set of windings inside of it, and it doesn't care which direction the electricity feeds it. It's going to see it as voltage. It's going to go through the windings, come out the other side. So if it's fed from us, where we're feeding it with 7,200 volts, it's going to go through those windings, come out the secondary side at 120 or 240 volts, go into your house. But if you feed it from your house to the secondary side at that 120 that generator's supplying, it's just going to go through those windings and come out the primary side, not at the full 7,000 volts that we feed it with, but it would still be thousands of volts that it would come out of that transformer right back onto the line that we're working on. So that's why the generator backfeed is so dangerous, because the transformer doesn't care which side it's being fed from. It's going to take that voltage, go through the windings, and come out the other side. So if you're feeding it, you're putting that voltage back on the line that we're working on that may be on the ground. Now, like I said, we're going to put grounds on to protect us, but there's still that threat of maybe some of it comes through the ground while we're working on it. It should be very minimal, and we should have our gloves on, but that's our biggest threat to us, or the biggest hazard is backfeed from generators.
Wow, that's very interesting, and I doubt that many people, that
Sure.
would come to mind. That wouldn't be the first thing they would think of when they're thinking of those safety risks.
No, you're just thinking getting my lights back on temporarily, and we understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about restoring outages?
Maybe that they see the fuse blown a lot of times. We get that a lot. Maybe we're driving a line out and somebody comes out and it says, it's down there at the end of the road, that fuse is open. And yeah, it is. That is where the feed is open from, but something caused that door that fuse. We call it's a door that closes in. Something caused that door to open up. So we got to find where that, problem is that caused that door to open up. So a lot of times, and they think they hear the boom, which the fuse it makes a boom noise when it opens up. And then everybody always thinks it's their transformer that blew up. And sometimes it is. Every once in a while, the transformer does blow up, but 90% of the time, it's just that fuse that opens up.
I think it's always important to touch upon this topic. Why is it so important for members to stay away from downed lines, whether they come across them walking or if they're driving and in a situation where they drive up on down power lines?
Yeah, that's a big one. Really, the biggest thing is you cannot tell whether that line is energized or not. Just because a line's on the ground doesn't mean that it's de-energized or that it's safe to touch it. Been multiple times we've come across lines on the ground and they're still energized. If there's snow or ice on the ground, that will absolutely stay on. I would always tell you to assume the line's on if it's on the ground, but if there's snow or ice on the ground, it's almost a guarantee that it is still on. It insulates it from ground, and it won't take it out. It might, the breaker or fuse might see it as just more load, as in if multiple houses were using more power, it might see it that way and it can handle that. It can stay on. Um, but you just cannot tell whether or not a line is energized or not. It looks the exact same whether the power's on or the power's off. The wire doesn't change. You can't see the electricity flowing. So a lot of times, especially on car accidents, we'll show up and there's multiple people walking all around the scene, whether they're trying to get the car away from the pole, whether that's like the wrecker, the tow truck's trying to already load it, or whatever it may be. There's I've been many times we've pulled up there and it's like, we need everybody to get away from this right now because I don't even know yet. Cause I drove in from the down line side of the line and I haven't made it to the breaker yet. I don't even know if that phase is open or not. So it's a scary thought when you come across there and you see people around the line that's on the ground or hanging really close to the ground, and we don't know if that line's energized or not. I mean, we can't tell until we make it to the breaker, open it up. We have a device that we put up by the line, and it tells us whether or not that line is energized or not. You can't tell whether the line's on or off or not. So, yeah, that's the biggest reason to stay away from the line on the grounds because you don't know that it's hot or not.
Absolutely. And we try to regularly put that information out there in some very specific instructions. You can find it on our social media, in your email newsletters, and the Connection magazine. The list of instructions, what the steps you should and shouldn't take if you do happen to come across down power lines. Well, I think we've covered a lot of territory. Is there anything else you would want listeners to know or to understand when it comes to restoring the power?
Yeah, one thing that I should have touched on a little bit on down lines. Really, to me, one of the scariest things for us or for the public with a down line is what's called step potential. And that line that's on the ground, if a energized line is on the ground, that voltage or energy doesn't stay just right there on where the phase is touching the ground. It has a ripple effect, like if you throw a rock in the water and it makes that ripple effect in the water. The voltage is doing the same thing on the ground. It's trying to dissipate into the ground, and it's going to. If it's 7,200 volts, that line is laying on the ground right there at that point. You've got 7,200 volts trying to go into the ground. 2 feet away might be 6,000 volts. And then 2 feet away from that, it might be 4,000 volts. So if you walk up even close to that line, you may have one foot at 2,000 volts, and then your other foot, as you take a step, might be at 6,000 volts. And so now you've got two different potentials that you are stepping into. And that's when the electricity would try to flow through your body and potentially kill you and cause harm to your body at that point. So you may be able to get electrocuted and never even touch the wire itself. You're just simply walking up there close enough to it and stepping into. That's why it's called step potential. Is you're stepping into the voltage on the ground that you really can't see. That you can't see it in the line, and you certainly can't see it trying to track across the ground. So that's another hazard that anytime we go do public safety seminars or whatever, we always try to really stress step potential and understanding that just because that line's on the ground, for one, that's not necessarily de-energized or open because it's on the ground, but also just walking up there close to it, you could potentially be injured just walking up close to it.
Right. You don't have to reach out and touch it.
No.
You just stay far away.
The line at all, yeah.
Stay far, far away.
Yep.
Great. Very good, important information for not just our members, but anyone listening, the community
Sure.
perhaps. So, um, great. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Tyler, I'll let you get back to work. I know you have other things to go do, but thank you so much for joining us today, taking some time out of your schedule to talk to our listeners and being on the Power Hour.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
And now it's time for our REMC wrap up. Applications have opened for the 2026 Summer Cooperative Camp. This week-long camp takes place June 22nd through the 26th and introduces high school age students to the many career paths available in the cooperative and utility sectors. The students will have the opportunity to gain hands-on experience working alongside co-op employees and industry professionals while exploring real-world skills that can lead to rewarding careers. Visit our webpage and click on Summer Cooperative Camp to learn more and apply. If you haven't yet, visit our website and check out the new Member Resource Library. There you will find quick, clear answers about your electric service and our co-op, from billing to safety topics, programs we offer, and everything in between. They're simple one-page guides. You can download them anytime, and we also have printed copies available in our lobby if you'd like to stop by. A reminder that we have 90th anniversary wall calendars available for free here at our office. Come pick one up while supplies last. While you're here, you can also grab a 2026 Indiana Festival Guide. Do you have or know a 6th grader who would enjoy horseback riding, canoeing, ziplining, archery, swimming, and more? Henry County REMC is still accepting applications for the 2026 Camp Kilowatt. We will send up to 2 kids to Camp Kilowatt this year. Visit campkilowatt.org to learn more and apply. And that wraps up this episode of the podcast. Thanks for joining us for the Power Hour with Henry County REMC, where we don't just provide power, we empower.